This is the Mulligan Stew Podcast. I'm Terry David Mulligan. This week, we are thrilled to welcome Alejandro Rose-Garcia, better known as Shakey Graves. You can usually find him in Austin, which is where he calls home, and he returns with a brand new album this month. The record is called Can't Wake Up. His label was kind enough to let us share 4 tracks from the new record on the podcast. So coming up, we'll talk to Alejandro about the new record, the tour. He wanted to make a record that reflected the full range of his musical influences, and boy, did he achieve that goal. Plus, he's going to tell us about recording part of the record at Levon Helm's studio in Woodstock, New York, and about the moment that he knew, not so much that he'd made it, but that there was an audience for him and they were waiting. My conversation with Shakey Graves is coming up, but first, from his brand new album, Can't Wake Up, this is Shakey Graves with Counting Sheep.
Sweet You're somebody's something after
I'm an actor. I understand what acting is about. You have acted as well, but you came through a family dynamic that was about. I thought initially was going to be, when I started to read about it, was going to be like a very musical family. But your family was theater driven. So is that showing itself now on the stage set and the way you come out on stage?
Yeah, that's my plan anyhow. As the solo act of me, playing the Suitcase evolved into a 2-piece, and then when that evolved into a 4-piece, I mean, at certain times I played with 7 people on stage. It was like, didn't sound great per se, but I've done scaling and it's kind of always a production test in my mind. And there's been kind of different, I talk a lot about David Byrne right now because I'm reading his book, How Music Works, which is wonderful. But even just the first time I saw Stop Making Sense, the way that he layers that show,
oh man,
and lets you see all the strings and stuff, I was just like, this is perfect,
Did you?
So,
did you see the David Byrne who came out one band member at a time?
Yeah.
Man.
So that's kind of how it used to be when I was, I used to sort of do that as well. It's a good way to get people used to stuff. So, I mean, this show is not particularly going to be like that, but I have a bunch of kind of ambitious concepts that I'm going to try and pull off, just because sort of the new music that we have is inherently bigger sounding, and there's kind of some new, sonic components like a mellotron and some certain like audio things that maybe if you're just hoping that I'm going to play acoustic guitar, I'm going to do some other stuff also. You know what I mean? But I've been trying to find a perfect way to kind of have that still feel organic as opposed to alienating, And there's a lot that you can do with just focusing attention and using light and playing things acoustic that you wouldn't expect that I would play acoustic. So I've got some tricks up my sleeve, and I'm testing them all right now. Actually, my dad is off hunting for practical lighting effects right now. He's helping me out because he's all set light designer. We were like, call the dad.
Oh no, because he's there, because you know him. You've talked about this. He understands. It's a very personal relationship. It's fantastic. It's absolutely beautiful. You're a lucky guy to have that talent around you. I have a conflict with two questions that want to each ask themselves at the same time. But one is about the space between you and the audience, because I was standing in the Commodore Ballroom many years ago, and there was a grand piano and Randy Newman. And I said to him, why is it just you and the piano? You write in terms of charts and strings, and everything you do sometimes is hugely orchestrated. He said, I want a direct line to the audience. Are you working on that?
I am, yeah. I mean, that's an important thing to keep in mind. And, when you're alone on stage, you kind of don't have any other options. There's nothing to hide behind.
Yep. Which is
and
good.
I guess I'm used. Yeah, it's good. And it's also, it's a lot more exhausting, and you leave a lot more of yourself potentially on stage if you're battling out there by yourself, It takes more energy to keep something afloat or to stay focused, and I love doing that. But then at the same time, there's a certain point in almost always in the music that I've made where there's just something I try and play as many instruments as I can, but short of looping something, which is way harder than it sounds. Sometimes just someone has to play the bass or whatever.
Sure.
Someone has to add that second part. So I'm trying to make sure that the audience intuitively feels that I'm not adding stuff just because I can, and I'm trying to make sure that I don't like that I'm doing the same thing.
How much how much of Can't Wake Up is, by the way, friends, that's the name of the album just been released. It's called Can't Wake Up. I believe it's the 5th album in 7 years. Have I got that right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, fine. How much of your music, I don't think I've ever asked this question before. How much of your music is music and how much of it is theater?
You know, it's all, I guess to a certain degree, I've noticed that the way that I approach creativity, because I draw, and I'm happy to say that I make art, but I'm also not like upset that it's just doodling. You know what I mean? I'm not like, I make art and this is the deal. But at the same time, it's like I'm always looking for good expression, whatever it is. And music is something that I find extremely, kind of inherently magical, I guess, in some way, not to sound corny. But the way music affects the body and the mind and your soul and the world around you, and it can be the lens that you perceive a whole window of time through. And sometimes people just hit stuff out of the park. Like there are, like David Bowie existed. You know what I mean? And like Prince existed, and anyway, it's astounding, and there's no way that I would be able to go on without being able to scratch at it in my life. But that being said, it's also like when I look at myself in the mirror, I don't say like, "Hey, you musician," like, "Look at you, guy, go music," But it's a form of expression that I feel like I have a small corner of that is mine. There's a lot of it. Everybody can get a little corner of it, but I feel like I have some. So.
We have more with Shakey Graves in just a moment. From Can't Wake Up, this is Dining Alone.
Same old shoes on the same old feet, same colored tie every day of the week. Shampoo, conditioner, rinse and repeat. Drip dry, do it again. I tell my woes to the knife and the spoon. Dining alone at a table for two. One glass of wine is plenty of time to dream about all of the things that I'll never do. I wonder what it's like to fly a plane, to meet a girl on Friday night and wake up next to her on Saturday. To swim across the ocean blue, to walk a mile upon the moon, to wear the crown and sit upon the throne. But it's getting late, this restaurant is closing, guess I'd better go. I wander through the city, whistle a tune, walk into a bar and ruin the mood. A dirty martini with an olive or two. Shake, pour, do it again. Couple more drinks, now they're kicking me out. Always get in trouble when I open my mouth. Stumble on home, fall into bed, drift off into my head. across the ocean blue to walk a mile upon the moon, to wear the crown and sit upon the throne. But it's getting late, the sun is coming up, off to work I go. Same old shoes on the same old feet, one track mind, one-way street. Nothing's gonna change for the same old me. Eat, sleep, do it again. Eat, sleep, do it again.
I wish I knew the answer, Alejandro. I wish I knew the answer to this question, because it's good to know, because then we can carry on the link. But how much busking did you do, and how does it show itself now?
No, like I did very little busking. I hate busking. I hate it so much. It's I know very few people that are actually good at busking, I feel like, and you have to be good at it, and in one sense, it's a great way to practice in public. But I'm definitely of the mindset that if you write songs, and that's what you find important about your music, busking is not potentially a great path for you.
Okay.
Because the whole thing of busking is making a spectacle that you hopefully stop somebody from walking by. And I'm not in the mood to make music to try and trick people into listening to it. Does that make any sense? Like, I would rather, to me, the busking, so to speak, that I did was I just played in every bar that I could get.
Okay.
And that has sort of the same challenges of strangers, and like not having a built-in crowd, but kind of building it from the ground up. But it also meant that, if I was playing something and someone wanted to listen to it, they could sit down and have a beer about it, as opposed to like give me money on the street.
I read a note. I read a note somewhere that you recorded part of the album in Levon's barn, which is, I love that. That's where the Wood Brothers did their live album, and all of those people that partnered with him and supported him and were his friends and remember him to this day. What was it like being in that room, and which tunes did you do in there?
Well, sadly, none of the stuff that we recorded there is actually on the album, because that was like our first. We went there, maybe 2 years ago, but that was literally where we started writing the music there. So we came up with melodies and riffs, and we had sort of just started to be a band. So, what better magical, good juju room to do that in than Levon's barn? And I can't even really say enough good things about that experience. It was exactly what everybody should get to do at least once, in some way. It was like we went and stayed in this gorgeous Airbnb with a really eccentric, like beautiful old French artist lady that ran it. And, but we basically just moved into a town, which is like Woodstock is very small.
Yep.
And I would wake up every morning, bright and bushy-tailed, and walk into town and eat at the same restaurant. And by the third day, they're like, "Who are you?" We know everybody in town. Why are you here? And then I became like a, fair weather regular at this place. And then every 2 days, I'd go to the wine store and get a box of wine. And then I'd go and basically show up at work at like 11 a.m. and walk into this gorgeous barn and just have a blank canvas, and that room just feels so good. It was wintertime, and he has this massive, like, Hogwarts style fireplace that you could walk into, huge fireplace. So we'd come in and start a fire, and you could hear the fire in the recordings we would make, you could hear it in the background and stuff. It was great.
Fantastic. By the way, did you say you bought a box of wine? I do a food and wine show. You bought a box of wine?
Well, no, I said that wrong. Yeah, a crate of wine.
I see. Fine. Okay.
I do like boxes of wine. Don't get me wrong. But no, we would buy like 12 bottles.
Okay.
And then
Sure,
every
of
2
course.
days or so.
Okay. Let me ask you about My Neighbor. I love the Beatles textures in there. As a matter of fact, I like all the texture of all of the songs. But in
Wow,
fact,
thanks.
it's just, I love what you've done with that track. Can you
Thank you.
kind of explain it to me so I can play it for you?
Yeah, that track, that came out of one of those things where there's another song on the record called Backseat Driver. And when we recorded that, we just recorded it in my house. And then my band left, and me and my girlfriend stayed up and kind of kept noodling around. And I just sort of farted it out, made a rudimentary version of that song. And I think she was playing drums, just real simple. And I listened to it back the next day and was like, man, should I just keep this? It was pretty much the song intact. But I decided to take another swipe at it and kind of make the lyrics a little more intentional, because there were sort of some that I just mumbled and got away with. Okay. Like, I'm a friend. Like, what'd you say? I'm like, I don't know. What do you think I said? But yeah, I mean, the song in itself is and then, in the re-recording, I added that kind of Eastern sounding electric guitar riff thing, and then had her come back in and do the bratty vocals during the chorus. Mm-hmm. It's both of us doing it, but I was like, yeah, go brattier. Go get in there, be the bratty person, do it. And she's like, okay.
Okay, and I'm setting myself up for having you shoot me down, but I'm looking at my notes before I lose you, and I'm just looking at. I'm going to go back to like counting sheep. I wrote down L.A. Birds, Graham Parsons, Poco.
Ooh.
I love that.
Oh wow!
I love those harmonies. I love the harmonies all over the place. Dining Alone at a Table for Two, loved that. Is that you whistling?
That is the eternal whistle of Mr. Raylan Baxter. He is a world-class whistler.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, I'm awful at whistling. Unfortunately, my drummer's pretty good at it too. But my buddy Raylan, who co-wrote a bunch of the songs on there, and does his own and makes his own amazing music. But he has that ability. If you see him play live, he whistles as like it takes a whistle solo, and your heart blows up. Mansion
Door, one of the sweet spots on the album. And I wrote down Beatles vocals in that, the close tucked in harmonies, beautifully done, wonderful song, man.
Oh, thanks. A lot of my obsession right now is trying to figure out what I need to do live, what I can do live, and what I don't need to worry about trying to recreate.
Sure.
Which is, it's not that bad of a problem.
Do you think about what you want as opposed to what your fans want? Is that yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, because at the end of the day, I'm the person that has to go to bed at night,
sure.
and live with all this stuff. And, I really try to stay away from making stuff for a specific outcome outside of it feeling and sounding right, Like, I believe there is a stopping point for songs. So, and sometimes it feels like you'll never find it when I'm making stuff. I'm just like, am I going to just keep adding? And then sometimes it's like the room is full, and sometimes it's just 4 things. Sometimes it's 20, layered vocals and all sorts of stuff. But specifically with this record, I really wanted to make something that reflected, I guess, my taste in music, and sort of just something that I would listen to at any time in my life up till now. Like, if I had found this record when I was 17, I would have been really into it.
Ah, nice.
And if I listen to this record right now and it wasn't mine, I would be really into it. So, unification theory.
We're going to finish off our conversation with Shakey Graves in a minute. But first, from Can't Wake Up, this is Aibohphobia.
Chocolate shop. She was shopping for chocolate. Spoke very little, said a lot. Well, she ain't the nicest car in the parking lot. Dad's a 10, mom's a cop. I could say more, but I'd rather not. palindrome. Bumps the wood, Dad's a nun. She plays games, he's no fun. Race car, kayak, Mrs. Run. I had Aibohphobia. All the troops aboard the SS Guru Road. She sounded nice, she was all dressed up like a Toyota. She ain't much, but that's enough. Her eyes are pearls and her skin is tough. Staring in the bloody hole, we said Madam Palindrome. Race car, kayak, nurses run. I have Aibohphobia.
Couple of more quick questions, if I can, Ali. Big Bad Wolf. I don't have lyric sheets here, but is that a Neil Young reference in there?
No, you know what's funny is I have no idea what. You're the second person I've heard bring this up, but the only people that bring it up are Canadians. You guys, you guys have all caught something that I'm like, what are the Canadians talking about? What line is a Neil Young? I should just say yeah, right?
Yeah, of course. Just especially when you're in Canada, rather burn out than fade.
Oh yeah. Oh wow.
But
yeah,
Russ never sleeps, right?
Russ, I know. Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. That's exactly what I did.
Of course, Neil Young's line is when the guy heckles him during one of his live albums. They all sound the same. And Neil says, it's all the same song. That's Neil Young.
Oh, man, that's great.
I'm looking at your dates.
I love Neil Young. I've always been. I've been listening to Neil Young since I can remember. That's like a parents doing it first and then being like, oh, good.
Cool. Hey, by the way, was your house musical? What were you listening to at home?
Let's see. So, my dad has always been a really big R.E.M. fan. I think that's still his favorite band in the world.
Okay.
There was always Neil Young. The Talking Heads were a big feature. Let's see. It was the 90s, so there was some Enya involved.
Built to Spill?
Well, for me, it was Built to Spill when as I got older. But I'm talking about like as a young.
Oh yeah. As
a young boy, a lot of Bruce Springsteen.
Of course.
And yeah, that's everything in between right there, pretty much.
Nice choice. May the 19th, Massey Hall, sold out.
Great, yeah.
Have you been in that room?
I don't think I have.
Oh, well, it's where everybody goes. If you're a Canadian artist and you want to record a live album, that's where you either start or finish your tour, right there, Massey Hall. May the 20th.
Wow, really? Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I have not.
Oh, it's gorgeous. May the 20th, Montreal, sold out. Great. I see you doing Bottle Rock.
Oh, yeah.
In Napa.
Mm-hmm.
And almost the same time, you're also doing, is it the Gorge you're doing, the Sasquatch Festival?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. August.
I said oof just because it's going to be a really crazy couple days of travel. That's show up, play, jump back in the butt, go.
I saw that. I saw May the 25th Bottle Rock, which means maybe you start that day in Napa and you finish the day in Washington. It's the same day. It's ridiculous. And then August the 10th through 12th, the Regina Folk Festival. Are you playing the Edmonton Folk Fest?
Oh, I can't say for certain. I'm really sure I am, because we were supposed to play this last year and
Calgary.
It got stormed out.
Yeah.
It got stormed out.
Yep.
And then we went and played kind of like a secret show thing that was just a mess, but it was like an enjoyable mess. It was crazy.
So it's possible. Day. It's possible.
I don't want to say this if it hasn't, if I'm wrong. Okay. But I'm pretty sure that we are. I think we're going back to Edmonton.
Okay.
Just because I love it. That was the first Canadian folk festival I ever played, and I was really excited to do that. And the festival was too. But what are you going to do when weather shuts it down?
Are you interested in doing side stages with other musicians from around the world? Because they do that.
Oh, you mean the greatest form of secret Canadian folk torture that no one in America knows about?
Exactly.
Canadian
right.
Folk Festival.
Yes, of course.
I love it. It's both my worst nightmare and one of my favorite things too. I'm a very nervous jammer. I'm not if I just let go and play, I do fine. But I still get nervous, and clam up in a take a solo. The Canadians don't pull any punches, man. I've shown up at Winnipeg and landed at the airport and got out and, I'm headed to the festival and I'm like, oh, I'm hosting one. And I was just people don't tell me these things. And so I had to, it had a theme to it that was kind of vague. And I talked to the festival people and I'm like, is this supposed to be, it was called Reason to Believe. And I was like, is this a Bruce Springsteen reference? They're like, sort of. And I'm like, that's it? And they're like, what do you think it is? I'm like, guys, I asked you, please. But it's always been great,
Okay.
And there's really, I love watching other people do it too, because great scenarios happen. And
Alejandro, one more thing about the live show, I'll let you go. And that is,
go for it.
Because you were a solo artist and now you have this incredible band with your music. When you go out there, do you combine the two? Do you go out by yourself as a solo that you were?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still, I try not to tour specifically on records also. This is a tour with new songs, so we're going to play it, but it's still just part of the show now, if that makes any sense. So it's there's tons of other songs I want to play besides just the 13 on this record.
Of course. Well, because you wrote them, you played them, you earned them. And those
people are, some people want to hear people have good suggestions most of the time. I'm like, oh man, I forgot that I should probably learn how to play that song.
At last question, big on a grand scale. At what point on this road, this 5 albums in 7 years, did it become apparent that you had found an audience and that they liked you and they were willing to take the journey with you?
Man, maybe the first time I ever actually went to Vancouver, because I was on a tour. This was in 2012, maybe, and I was opening for a band called He's My Brother, She's My Sister, and it was me in a suitcase, and I had a record on the internet, and I would play the show, and maybe a person or two people would show up and be excited about it, and then we crossed the border. It was my first time going to Canada. and I got detained at the border crossing, and they wouldn't, they like hassled me a little bit, and I was late for sound check, and I was freaked out. I didn't know what to do, and I was with my girlfriend at the time, and she's like, it's okay. And we pull up, and it was at the Owl, right? Is that what it's called, Electric Owl?
Electric Owl.
Electric Owl. It was at the Electric Owl, and I roll in there, and I'm so nervous because I've already missed my slot. There's like other bands playing. And I go up to the stage manager guy, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I know I missed my thing. And he's just like, oh, no, man, we just switched the band order around. You're good. You're just up next. And I was like, what? And there was like a somewhat full room of people who knew my music and were really excited. And this kid's like, what's up, man? Dude, I brought you some LSD. I was like, what? What are you talking? Who are you? Who are you people? How did you find? And they're just like, the internet. And we love you. And we listen to you. You're from a different country that's right next door to us. Anyway, it was one of the sweetest welcomes, and it felt so genuine, and it also felt so far away in a sense, even though it's not that far away, but it meant a lot to me, And then the gaps kind of filled in.
Nice.
But that was my first aha moment.
Congratulations. I'm glad.
Canada, listen to my music.
That's fantastic. You must find Shakey Graves. You must. You simply, he's going to perhaps be knocking on your door if you have an Airbnb somewhere. Can't Wake Up is the name of the album. It's out now as of today. Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
I hope you liked that conversation. I did. It was fantastic. That's it for this week's Mulligan Stew podcast. We publish new episodes every Friday. Subscribe today on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, or Spotify. We're going to leave you with a final cut from the Shakey Graves record. From Can't Wake Up, this is Tin Man. I'm Terry David Mulligan, and thank you for listening.
Trouble.